Screw it.
Hey, it's Kenias from J2 Sport.
It just turned out. All right, there we go. All right, ready? 3, 2, 1.
Hey, it's Kenias from J2 Sport.
Richard Chucks Papillon.
I'm Apex from G2 Esport.
This is Smith.
Hey, this is Buddy from G2.
I'm MK, and you're here listening to the Center Ring.
Okay, so let's start.
Hello. Hello, and welcome back to another edition of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. The date, June 24th, 2019. The time, 8:36 p.m. Central Standard Time. Wouldn't be TCR without an out-of-date liner. 2 out of 5 ain't bad, though. 2 out of 5.
The main
Bad.
two.
Yeah, not bad. Passing. This will be the best episode ever. We have e-news to wrap it up. Of course, our weekly segments where we just discuss things that we don't have time to get to. As well as Rocket League Season 7 wrapping up, so we'll talk about that. The ESL Pro League Season 9 wrapped up. We'll start the show there. But before we do that, be sure and follow us on Twitter at The Center Ring. Tell your friends, tell your family. If you're listening on iTunes or any other device or outlet that lets you review, go ahead and leave a review. We appreciate it, only if it's nice. If it's bad, move on. We don't need that. We don't need negativity in here. We don't need your constructive criticism. We won't listen. Just a heads up. And let's introduce everyone. Hello, my name is Tim. I will be your captain for this journey into esports. And alongside me, as always, is my best friend, my only friend, Anuj. Hello, Anuj.
What up, buddy? How are you?
I am good. I am good. A bit tired, man. The kitchen remodel is done. Today was the last day. 2 weeks. 2 weeks. But it looks good. Finally, the house has been torn up really since DreamHack Dallas. Because I had guests over, and then it was like the day they left, the next day they tore up the kitchen. So
You never feel comfortable with construction going on. It never feels like you're home while all that's happening. You know?
I mean, it's always like a rush. It's like, because they got here at 8 o'clock every morning, and I would wake up at 7. And I was like, man, there can be no slip-ups in the morning.
I'm pretty OCD. Like, I like things in place, you know? So when everything's kind of out of whack, it throws me off.
Yeah. Oh, I feel that, man. You know me. You know me and things out of place. I will, life cannot go on if things are out of place. But I'll tell you what's not out of place, and that's the Center Ring. It's always here for the listeners because we love you guys so much. Let's get into today's episode because the ESL Pro League Season 9 wrapped up over the weekend as it was in Paris, or not Paris. That's probably a dumb thing of an American to say, that just because I knew it was in France, I just assumed everything is in Paris. But nonetheless,
Pierre.
it was over there. It was in Montpellier.
Okay, that's it, bro. We're worldwide, okay?
You're a worldwide.
me out-
I'm an
help me out a little
American,
bit.
sir, and that is Montpellier. No, it was a good one though, man. It was so funny because I felt like ESL Pro League, these finals had so much more hype built around them. And maybe it were the teams, maybe it was a situation, but so much more hype around the ESL finals than ECS, which was just like a couple weeks ago, like a month ago.
Yeah, ECS is all YouTube, right? Or were
No,
were
I think
Twitch?
they're on everything now.
I don't know. ESL just kind of has that reputation of putting on a show, though, right? When you start looking at like Cologne, ESL New York, Katowice, like they've held legendary events, you know, in the past. And then on top of that, ESL is kind of, I think, just the bigger of the two pro leagues, right? When you
Right.
just consider the two in terms of popularity. So,
They're around first,
um,
so I guess that they have that going for them.
but you're right. Also, you know, along with that, like I said, we have the best teams in the world here, and with the recent change or change at the top with Liquid being number one and being able to see Liquid and Astralis both in a tournament together, um, outside of Blast Pro, like there's really a lot of hype built up behind it. So it was definitely an exciting one. We had surprises kind of up and down. I thought throughout, and teams showing up where we weren't sure what they would do, but yeah, definitely a lot of excitement behind this one.
And we won't get into it right now because it's going out of order. But it does help that every once in a while the CS stars align, and you have the underdog, not only home team but underdog home team in G2 make it to the finals in their home country. Let's be real. They had no business being there prior to the tournament. No one thought they were going to be there unless you were being a homer. But every once in a while, we get the stars to align. Cloud9 had it at the Boston Major, and they ended up winning it all, right? But every so often, you get this beautiful thing in esports where the home team, the underdog, gets to go to the finals, and I think that definitely helped with the hype level. And as you mentioned, the storyline between Astralis and Liquid being their first event, and even better, we even got to see that matchup. So I don't want to get ahead of myself, though. Let's let's talk a little bit about group stages. I, there wasn't a whole lot of drama in the group stage. Really, this tournament was all about the playoffs. But what stood out to you in group stages?
A couple different things. I think Liquid losing their first match against North really put a lot of pressure on them. The way this tournament, one thing I want to, I guess, we should explain is how the tournament format is, right? So it's two brackets, basically both are a double elimination. First place it automatically advances to the semis. Second and third place go to the quarters, right? So if you lose your first matchup, you fall into the lower bracket, and that's where Liquid ended up. They lost a close one, 16-13 to North. A really, North has been playing well, starting from like DreamHack Dallas, I believe, and here recently they've been performing a little bit better. So it wasn't it was a shocker in the sense that Liquid's number one. They shouldn't have lost it. But North had been playing well. So Liquid dropped down and had to advance through the lower bracket. I thought that first matchup between Mouse Sports and MIBR was going to be a really interesting one because we haven't seen Mouse in a tournament in over a month. So we didn't really know what to expect, especially with that new lineup. Frozen being added to the lineup, Woxic being added to the lineup. Frozen, a lot of hype around him, right? He's like a 16-year-old
Kerrigan
kid. I
too.
mean,
Isn't this one of the first times
yeah,
we've seen Kerrigan?
yeah. Kerrigan coming over, obviously from FaZe into his in-game leadership
Well,
role that
Envy
he's
too.
taking on. Yeah,
Don't
the
forget
short-sighted
Envy.
envy. That's right. That's right. And then yeah, so I thought that matchup was going to be really interesting. I didn't know what to expect from it, and Mouse kind of, and we'll talk about them here as we advance, but they did really well in this tournament. I thought that was a really big event for them to step into right before you start going into major discussion. Um, it was a good first matchup, and I thought the other one that stood out that we kind of talked about earlier was, Fnatic kind of going out the way they did. They just didn't have. Um, a strong showing, didn't even make it to the finals of the losers bracket. So, I thought that was a tough first round matchup going up against NRG. Um, but they should have been able to pass through, Heroic and at least play G2 in that lower bracket final. So it was a disappointing out for them.
Heading into the playoffs, then, um, we'll do a shout out just because I feel like I have to every time. But Cloud9 not making it out of groups bracket. There's nothing we can say this episode that we haven't said in the past. There is talks of roster mix up. They're finally approaching that time, probably long overdue, getting a little bit more back to their NA roots with what pretty much picking up half some DAPs and then pretty much half the roster from Ghost.
Yeah, so they would be getting, the rumor is for them to get, well, not, so Tens is not on Ghost. He's on, I forget what team Tens is on. Tens is kind of the big pickup here. Tens is a young star player. People believe he has a lot of growth ahead of him, still really early in his career. So he would be the guy that people are going to really look forward to. Kusta coming from Ghost, they recently just dropped their roster. We've seen Kusta in a big role before with Liquid. I think unfortunately for him, it was just too early. and he took Simple's op spot at the time, if you recall. So Simple went
Yeah.
from the primary opper
He's pretty
to
much
a
set up to
rifler.
fail.
Really, really tough spot to be in for him. So he's had to work his way back up. And if this actually happens, good on him for being able to pull through, because that was a tough situation for him to go through early in his professional career. And then Daps coming from NRG. If again, if that happens for them, there's a lot of excitement about it. I want to just throw this so it's like it's out there for people to know. I'll throw myself on the line for it. I don't see Dabs being as great of a player as people are making him out to be right now. I think he's
And I will
good.
say you're kind of in the minority there because, like,
For sure, a hundred
it
percent,
seems like a
a hundred
lot of
percent.
people are giving him a lot of credit for where
Oh,
NRG is at right now. A lot.
they have a ton of talent on that roster. I would love to see what he really is able to do with this new lineup. Automatic, obviously, we all still think of him as a great player. Rush, I don't really know what you're going to get out of him. Kusta, again, coming to the big stage, has still a lot to prove. And Tens being a young star, this is not walking into Cirque, Tarek, Breezy, like top tier players in NA. So there's definitely going to be a difference here in terms of quality. But again, I think he's really gonna have to step up. He was the bottom fragger consistently on that team, even in this last event with them. So I still think there's a lot in the air there. I mean, I'm excited to see that lineup. I think NA fans should be a lot more excited for that lineup than
Hmm.
what they currently have on board. And again, this would be replacing Vice, Golden, and Cajun B. Those are the three rumored to be out, obviously. Um, and picking up James IRL as their head coach. So again, hesitant to like just jump right on and say, "Hey, Cloud9's back." Does this make them a top 15 team again? I think there's good potential for that. I don't know if they'll be able to crack the top 10 with it though.
So moving on to the playoffs, unless you had anything else to say about the groups.
No, I think we've
Anything more
given them
there?
their fair share. Daytona, shout out to Daytona. Never heard of them until this tournament, so good on them for being there. They gave Cloud9 a good 2-0 right there on the first round losers bracket, so it allowed Cloud9 to be against G2.
There you go. And this is another one where I guess that's a good segue, right? Because with G2, it's funny how watching it live, you're thinking like FaZe getting 2 0'd. It's like, geez, FaZe is done for, right? But now in retrospect, you're like, well, I mean, they did lose to G2, who did eventually get to the grand final. So I guess maybe pump the brakes on like the world is falling apart around FaZe. But nonetheless, I mean, this is a roster that I have felt for a long time needs to really have a serious look at. Like, I don't know how much faith I have in Nico anymore as far as being like. I think the conversation to put Nico and Simple in the same breath is done. In my opinion,
Over.
it's done. And that used to be like a normal conversation of who is number one, Nico or Simple. That argument has been put to sleep in my mind. Nico is your average good player, but I don't know if it's just the beatdown of that roster or just the beatdown that has become FaZe Clan, but I don't know if this is what it is to get it done.
Yeah, it almost feels like we're having the same discussion over and over with MIBR, Cloud9, and FaZe, right? Like, when is enough to make a change right now? Now, obviously, Cloud9 being in a very different discussion because they're not competing in these events, but MIBR and FaZe, especially both of them, like with FaZe, we're seeing it time in and time out. They're not committing to a fifth player. They're not finding stability in the leadership there. I don't even really think any of these guys are true shot callers when it comes to actually being a proper IGL and being able to maintain a high level of play. Like it just hasn't been proven with this team yet. Nobody had over an ADR in the matchup against G2 in the best of three. Nico was the only one that even had a positive rating on or a positive KD on one of the maps, and it was just a +3. So, kind of across the board, I feel like this team has just kind of lost its mojo, and it's going to be really tough to get back. I mean, unless they add a stellar fifth that can also IGL, and give me a name if you have one, but I don't see what they can do at this point to kind of flip that switch. It's just been a long time, like since they've
Right.
been been in that situation. They've
It,
announced Neo is
but
coming
look at that
back.
situation, right? And that's part of the issue that I feel like is you bring up the fact that they can't find a consistent fifth. The issue is the consistent four. Imagine being Neo in this situation, or even before Neo, Adren, who was put in as a stand-in, right? He was never really officially on the roster. He was always
Yeah.
a stand-in. He was joined in January of this year, and then booted out in early May. Now you have Neo being another substitute stand-in, in-game leading on a team where four dudes have been in there since the pretty much the beginning, right? 2017 is when they got in. And August was the last one, which was Olafmeister was the latest one in there, unless you count Yanko, but I don't because he's a coach. So imagine like being into that situation, right? You are going into a team with Guardian, Nico, Rain, and Olafmeister, and you are supposed to be like, people are looking at you as being like, okay, are you going to be the solution to their problem this event? And now you're expected to in-game lead against four dudes who obviously are very, you know, what's the word?
They're like polarizing figures to have on the
Yes,
team,
yes. Very
like at the very
polarizing guys.
least.
Like you definitely know that they all think they know how to lead a team. And so now
Yeah.
you're going in here. Maybe Neo, cuz he's been around the block a few times, maybe they'll respect him a little more. But my issue is I think those top 4 guys in Rain, Nico, Guardian, and Olaf control that team. And so you're not going to see any of those leave. It's always going to be that fifth player they just try to rotate out.
Yeah, I mean, it's again, I agree. It's just a tough spot for them. I would rather see changes come, with a couple of players. For example, like I would love to see Guardian find his way back onto Navi. That's another team that we mentioned is just really kind of taken a little bit of a step back now. They're ranked 13th currently, which is mind blowing. They were top three, not too long ago.
No.
They've fallen to 13 in the standings now, and so
I think
if
they haven't been in some tournaments as of late,
they
which
haven't, which
affects.
hurts you obviously.
Yeah.
But I would like to see it, other changes other than just that one in-game leader. Bring in maybe a younger player or two to kind of revitalize or re-energize this roster. They keep doing it with another senior leader, and it's just not. They should have just kept Kerrigan if that was the case. Like Kerrigan is just as proven, if not more proven, than anybody they've brought in up until this point. So, um, I don't know. I mean, they're not an easy solution there unless they're willing to make multiple changes, and the fact that they haven't committed to a fifth for a longer period of time is obviously got to be frustrating as a fan.
On the other half of the quarterfinals, you had the main event, the event everyone was looking for. I will also say, we can edit this out. Did it just lightning behind me again? Are we having more storms tonight?
I popped my finger. Was that it?
I don't know. No, I thought I saw. Fair warning, my power flickers a lot during storms, so we might get cut off if you're watching on Twitch, or the audio might be lost for these first 20 minutes. So we'll see how
Who
it
knows?
goes.
We can
But
always do a better job.
that's right. Looking at the quarterfinals, though, this was the main event that everyone was hoping for. Maybe not as early in the tournament, but I don't think it really mattered to people at when it happened. They just wanted to see it happen. And of course, I'm talking about Astralis versus Team Liquid, right? You have the official number one team in the world with Team Liquid, and what some of the public, or at least Astralis fans, still consider the number one in the world team with Astralis. And this was finally going to put that argument to bed. No matter which one of them went on to win the tournament, whoever won this match was going to be considered number one in the world. And boy, I think it's safe to say, like, Liquid finally got that monkey off their back. They finally defeated their dragon, taking Astralis 2-1 in what I say, pretty clean fashion. They went 16-12 on Overpass, 16-6 on Inferno, 16-13, and of course, the one to win it all, Vertigo. So I I don't know how I feel about Vertigo yet. I hated that it was the deciding map like to this match, right? Like it could have been Dust 2, it could have been any other like staple map in Counter-Strike. So like to have these giants duke it out, and now you've put it on Vertigo. So I don't know how I feel about that, but nonetheless, Liquid took the W.
It was really an incredible series, dude. Like, I mean, just on even on the first map, Astralis jumped out to a huge lead to start the game. It was like 7-8-9. I mean, I don't know what it was. It was like 8 or 9 to nothing to even start it off. And Liquid had to kind of roar back on their CT side to get it close. But Overpass to me is kind of proven to have some like great playoff games. Like Overpass is kind of like creating its own little legacy, almost like we're seeing with Inferno, right? Inferno always seems to be just an amazing decider map or always pulls out like the
Hmm.
big guns. And Overpass is kind of doing that for me now too. But it was a fantastic watch. This whole series was really, really special. And you're right, Vertigo, I was really wanting to see Vertigo in a competitive match. I didn't want to see it in this series, however.
give
Like I didn't
give it to
like
me like MIBR versus Luminosity or something, right?
I would
Like,
have loved
let's
it, you know.
save it
In
for
several other
those.
situations, I was really curious to see how tactical that map was going to be. I even went back and watched the VOD of this one because I had to like get a better sense of some of the plays that they were making because it was such a like A site focused team map. It was almost a polar opposite of Nuke watching it in play. Um, there were certain executes that both teams had, that both teams did really well on, that just couldn't be stopped on that map. There was no way for you as a CT to really hold that site down with the ability to throw some of the flashes, smokes, and mollies that you could to push people out of position. You were able to do that consistently on that map. It made for some really cool plays because it was still at least two of the best teams in the two best teams in the world. Um, Going head to head in a new map, so you really saw, like, as much tactical play as probably could be seen on that map this early in its, in its infancy at this point, but, um, it was a fun map to watch. I mean, ultimately, I still really enjoyed it. It did come down to the wire. I mean, Astralis dominated the first half 12-4. You kept on hearing Anders and them say in the broadcast, like, well, don't rule them out. Like, this is probably going to be the norm for this type of map. Like, wait for the T
Right.
side, wait for the T side. And sure enough, Liquid started on like a 10-0, 11-0 run.
Kind of like when
Um,
Nuke, old Nuke, right? Like 12-4 on old Nuke was like, no biggie. Like,
it,
you guys are
it,
screwed. You let us get four wins on
we
CT.
got to
Like,
win. Yeah, for
GG.
sure. It was crazy though. It was a fun map. We saw like Elige really, really stepped up on that map. Stewie was fantastic, and I'll kind of save this for as we get into the finals discussion. But it was good to see them stepping up in this situation, and they worked that B site beautifully together. I mean, Stewie was so good with the op, and he played so aggressive on that map. It was really, really fun to watch. Overall, I got what I wanted out of the matchup. Right, it went to the full 3 maps. The last map really came down to the wire. The star players are the players that stepped up on these maps. So um, hard to ask for anything else when you want to see these two teams go head to head.
The semis, you had NRG versus G2. Of course, NRG skipping the quarters from beating Astralis the round before. G2 ended up taking that one 2-1.
And Kenny S dominated that series. I mean, Kenny S was fantastic in the first 2 maps. Almanek was great in the third map. Overall, they looked really good. Kenny S looked like he was back in that one. Just watching some of those flicks, it was great.
Uh, I will give Kenny S a lot of credit. So for the longest time, and even maybe even now, right? He's always been kind of at least looked at as a very emotional player. Like, if things are going wrong, he's going to be the one tilted and, in my opinion, throwing off the team vibe, right? Like, he's going to
Yeah.
kill whatever positive mojo is going on in that roster, because it just, he constantly always, like, the body language is always just looking like he is tilted at one of his teammates or the situation.
He
Where on
wears his
this,
emotions on his shoulders for
yeah.
sure.
But I feel like at this event, like, you even heard some of the audio pick it up. Like, he was kind of like, I mean, really everyone, but even him and Shocks were both like saying, guys, look, like, if we're struggling, pick it up. If you see a teammate getting down, help them. Like, we have to stay positive. We have to keep going. And I don't know if that's what made it work for them at this tournament or what, but it they definitely seemed like the attitude was different.
Well, you mentioned it earlier. Like this was in front of their home crowd, right? Like there was so much more to play for with this event being there. Vitality was not in this event, right? So this was the French team to look out for, and so they knew they had to put on a show, and they really stepped up. You're right. Like I don't know what it was. Like I was talking about Kenny's over aggression with the op, and he was still aggressive, but he was smart about his aggression. And there's a big difference, right? Like he didn't just push it every single round or he has a lot of confidence, excuse me, in himself as he should, but he played the maps really well and he was very dominant in that series. Um, Daps unfortunately did struggle in most of the series here. Cirque unfortunately did not show up for them. He had a tough series against G2, and part of that is going head to head against Kenny, right? Like that's going to always be an issue. Um, but overall, again, I mean, another good series that gave us, took it the full three maps. Um, and you got to see Kenny perform the way he did with the NOP. It's just hard to ask for anything else from him.
You've already talked about Mouse Sports a little bit, but in the semis you did have Team Liquid versus Mouse Sports. Team Liquid made that one overpass 16-8, but then in Nuke took it to overtime, beating them 19-17.
That comeback was incredible because they were down 13-2 on Nuke, kind of like we just talked about Vertigo. Nuke is the same way. It's a heavy CT sided map. Um, Same way in the sense opposite, but
Right,
like
right, right.
same and dominant on one side. Liquid looked like they were done. I mean, not Liquid. Mouse looked like they were just done and defeated at 13-2. I mean, there was really I couldn't think of any way for them to make a comeback on the second half. I mean, they had already lost the first map at that point. Woxic went out of his mind. He had a 4v1 and a 15-13 to help make it 15-14 and push him through. Um, Really, Liquid were able to take it in OT. Um, they took the first round pretty handily and they kind of just took control. But it was a great map for them. And then obviously in the next one, it just didn't they didn't have an opportunity obviously, but with that being the last map. But in the sense, it was just a good showing from Mouse. Um, Frozen played well. Woxic was stellar with the op. Chris J and Rops both were 1 and 2 in rating going into this finals or semifinals against Liquid. Both of them struggled really hard. Chris J dropped to like third or fourth overall. Rob's dropped out of like the top 10 in rating because of this series. And it was unfortunate that neither of them were able to step up, but I think that brings a lot of positivity seeing the other guys be able to do it. It doesn't squarely fall on their shoulders.
And then you come to the grand finals with, of course, Team Liquid versus G2, the number one in the world, the NA team making history versus the home team. Again, what I would consider the underdog throughout the tournament because, in my opinion, no one thought they were going to be there. At least you shouldn't have thought G2 would be in the grand finals with the teams that are here. And again, put on a pretty good show. Like, do not let the 3-1 score line like trick you into thinking this was just a complete blowout by Liquid. Dust 2 on first map went overtime. Liquid took
Yeah.
it 19-15. Overpass was the only blowout. Liquid took it 16-3. But then G2 actually defeated them on Nuke 16-12, which was kind of a shock because historically this iteration of Liquid has performed decently well on Nuke.
Yeah. Yeah,
And
that
then
was definitely good.
Oh yeah, and real quick, just to wrap it up, you had Inferno being the last map. Again, no Vertigo. Had it gone one more map, Vertigo would have again been the decider, which just thank God it didn't get to that point. But that went to what? Quadruple
Went to
overtime?
three
Triple
overtimes.
triple overtime.
Yeah.
So you had where Liquid ended up winning 25-22.
Yeah, I
So
mean
wasn't a gimme.
first map was fantastic. There was a really strong CT side for Liquid. G2 made a crazy comeback to come back in that one. Um, Stewie or I'm sorry, flip that around. But Stewie really started the comeback for him with the clutch on the T side and pulled them, pull them within striking distance there. They had a tough start. Like Liquid really was down what 8-9-2 to start the game. It looked pretty bad in that first map. And again, Stewie clutched it and they kind of went on a 7 or 8 round run after that clutch. It was a fantastic play. Um, Taking it into overtime, they really dominated that first map. Nitro had a 4K clutch to start overtime on a B hold that really kind of set the tone, and they just ran away from it. Ran away with the tournament from there. That first map from there. Um, it was a fun overall series, though. You're right. Like I'm so happy that Inferno came into play,
Hmm.
and we had another just incredible match. You talk about round after round with clutches. From Twist, Elige, Stewie, like all the big names stepped up from Liquid, and same thing again on the French side. Kenny S and Shocks were both fantastic on that map. I mean, Shocks had 44 kills, Kenny S had 33. They were really playing well off of one another, holding down separate sites. It was an exciting game. You're right. The 3-1 scoreline really doesn't do it justice.
And there's a lot of chatter now going on like Reddit and Twitter and everything that we might be seeing the start of a run here with Liquid, right? Kind of like a mini dynasty. Like how far can this roster go? And they've really hitting stride, I think, at the perfect moment because as we've discussed in this episode and in previous episodes, it almost seems like all those top teams that they used to struggle with are now kind of falling by the wayside or at least struggling here and there, right? We see MIBR, which is, I mean, almost out of the question as far as being a threat like they used to be. They've made roster
Mhm.
changes recently. Astralis losing, I mean, they beat Astralis this time, finally kind of defeating that stigma, but they've also lost to NRG this tournament, which I think is a sign on where they're at with the roster, right? I think how they haven't been at other events, maybe not have taken the game as serious. I think that is coming back to haunt them a little bit. So I think right now where Team Liquid is at the perfect moment to strike and make a run. Now, of course, none of this matters if they don't perform at the major coming up in Berlin in August. None of this matters. If Astralis still comes in and wins the major and Liquid gets even second place, all of this chatter about them being number one is really all for none. Like they could win every event leading up to the major, but if they don't win the major, I don't think any of it matters.
Yeah, I mean, I think they're clearly the number one right now. I don't think there's any question about it, right? With the way they
Right, right.
performed in their last few tournaments, it'd be really hard to see anybody else. And it's crazy to think like 4 out of these 5 players have been considered top 5 players at any given point over the last year and a half in CS, right? With Stewie, Elige, Nath had his own time when he was with Optic as really one of the most dominant players in the game, and obviously Twist. But yeah, these guys, I kind of disagree a little bit with you when you say it's like all or nothing in the major. I think if they come out of ESL One New York with a win there, and that's going to have the best teams in the world at that event also. I think if they won that, and let's say they came in second at the major, yeah, it doesn't allow them to have the era the same way that Astralis did. Obviously, that all comes down to majors at the end of the day,
Hmm.
but they could still be, in my mind, considered the best team right now, even if they were to lose the major. Should they win a handful of tournaments like they are leading up
Right.
to
I
it,
guess
and
let me
then
rephrase. Is like yes, they can still be number one in the world and get second place at the major. I mean, mathematically, the way HLTV does it, they could still have that happen. But yes, you can't call them like a dynasty or an era team if they don't win at the major.
yeah, they have to win the major to go start going into that same run of Fnatic, then Luminosity, SK or whatever, and then obviously over to Astralis. Like to in order to be at that level, that dynasty level, you got to win majors. But I think they're good enough right now to say they're a clear cut number one. I don't even think there's a question about Astralis being better than them at this moment in time. They have the ability to do it. Yeah, I think they still are able to rebound. Um, but right now, Liquid is just they're really on another level. Like everybody is playing well on their team. Stewie has found his own groove. He
Man, he's looking.
clutched a couple maps
He's
for him.
you can also tell with Stewie is that he is getting his old like C9 groove back, which he never really had in MIBR. I
No.
really feel like even if he'll never admit it, but I think he will admit that he maybe rushed that move, or at least maybe ill placed the move, because he never really seemed to hit his stride with them. Neither did
It went
Tarek. I
from
mean, none of them
having
did.
fun to business, and now it feels like having fun again with
Yeah,
Stewie, right?
because I mean, you see
When
it
he
though.
was with
Like him and
MIBR
his
is very
banter, his
yeah,
banter between who was it?
cold.
Was it
He
Colt?
started yelling to Cold on the other side about how you like that when he knifed him. That was like what
But
was that
even
last tournament or
Kerrigan,
was
and
yeah, you're
Kerrigan on Twitter saying like, um, was it was it Kerrigan? Somebody, it had to have been Kerrigan.
they said
I either way.
I'm ready to take out Liquid tomorrow or something like
Yeah, and he's
that.
like, "Don't let the Boston Major hit you on your way out" on Twitter or something. Like,
Yeah.
just, completely disrespected him and his family. But it's great because that's Stewie on Cloud9 was always all about that, right? He was the kid who was just running his mouth the whole time. He wasn't afraid to just talk smack, but he also backed it up at the same time. Like there was
Yeah.
never a moment where he couldn't back it up. And now it's like I feel like he's starting to get in his groove with Team Liquid, which if this is just the start, then I'd say they're in pretty good shape.
Yeah, like he's not he doesn't feel like he's hesitating anymore. He's playing with his aggression that he used to play with, and you see that they've let him be free in their style. And I think a lot of things goes to Adren. Like Adren has also, I think, been kind of a calming figure when it comes to being a different style of coach. Not to say anything is wrong with Zeus. I loved Zeus as their coach. Adren kind of brings it almost the polar opposite in terms of personality, right? Like
Zeus
he's
is
a
a hype
more
coach,
yeah,
and I
Zeus,
think Adren is more like, hey, let's watch tape coach, right? He's more of
yeah,
the like,
Probably X's and O's is
yeah,
seems like a Dren's thing. I don't know if that's 100% right, but that's what the vibe I kind of get from him. But Stewie played really, really well in the tournament. I mean, again, they needed him to step up the way he did. He, helped win the very last round of the tournament with a 3K flank on Inferno. That was such a great Stewie play. And then again, Twist on this team has proven over and over again that he could easily be the best player on this team consistently. He has been playing well at every tournament. He got them into the overtime on Inferno with a beautiful 3v1 that Anders called game over. He said, and we have a fifth map coming up. And then next thing you know, Twist ends up with a CZ to the head on somebody and then busts out two more with his own gun. So it was really, a great tournament all the way around from them. Elish getting the MVP. That's back to back HLTV MVPs for him after getting his first one, just a couple of weeks ago. So these guys are all hitting it hard right now. Like they are really playing at a very high level.
yep. And so I think the next big event is something Star Ladder. I think at some point, but I don't know
Well,
what teams are there or
Star
not.
Ladder is going to be the Berlin Major in September. You have ESL New York coming up, right? That might be the next like really big one. Let me see here.
I'm trying to think. I don't have a calendar up in front of me,
Yeah,
but
it's
either way,
ESL One New York is coming up here June 27th. So that's a close qualifier.
yeah, I was gonna
Oh
say the
geez.
main event's not
Yeah.
till September.
Yeah.
At the end
Yeah.
of September, it's the same weekend as the Overwatch League finals. But either way,
Blast Pro.
okay, I said big events. I said big events, sir. Not not road shows. Thank you very much. Okay, we only talk about big events here at TCR.
Oh,
Just kidding,
ESL
class.
Cologne. I have to throw that out there. ESL Cologne, July 2nd to the 7th. How can
Okay,
we
well there you go. So that will be the next event where you'll see some of these teams and seeing if anything can be carried over. But nonetheless, really good event for ESL yet again. Always putting on. Man, they get a lot of crap, especially like when they sign with Facebook. But ESL has always put on a good show,
They really do.
in my opinion. Speaking of another good show, you did have the Rocket League finals for season 7 wrap up. This was in New Jersey at the Prudential Center, where the New Jersey Devils also play. And I will say this to start off with the crowd. So I've been to a lot of uh, esports events. I've been to CS:GO majors where they filled out up half a stadium. I've been to the Overwatch League finals where they pretty much filled up an entire sports stadium, and all those made sense to me. You got CS, you got Overwatch, you see League of Legends and Dota filling it up. I will give all the credit in the world to the Rocket League crowd. The fact that they were able to fill up the lower bowl at a big time arena, like where a hockey team plays at, very impressed. I was not expecting that at all.
They have a
And like the
fantastic fan
hype
base.
level was unreal.
It still like throws me off a little bit because I've never really been in the Rocket League world, right? Like I've played it as a very much a casual, so I don't watch the competitive scene a ton for Rocket League. But like all their major championships in that sense, it's crazy. The hype is like real when you're at these events. The fans are into it. I mean, the games are also great and like it just there's so much energy behind it. So I mean, they've done a great job of promoting their game, but it's also so relevant to like so many people. Like everybody
Yeah.
understands Rocket League. It's like, it's just a very easy game to follow and have fun with, and anybody can play it.
Yep. So, hats off to you. If you were at the event, you did swell. Set the world record for the longest Mexican wave at, I guess the record was 18 minutes. So they broke that. And then this year it went, what, 27 minutes?
27 minutes.
And for those who don't know, the wave at a professional sporting event, which by the way, I despise, I would have been the one jerk in the crowd snapping the wave. But it's where you get up and you wave your arms up in the air and then you sit back down and then everyone else around the stadium does it and then it gets back to you and you'll sit back up and put your arms up in the air and you sit back down. It's the most obnoxious, annoying thing you could ever do at a sporting event. But they broke the record and they went on for 27 minutes. I would have given up after like 3 times around the stadium, but obviously they were going for it, so they just decided to go big or go home.
27 minutes makes it pretty cool, right? It would be
That's a
annoying if
long
they hit
time.
like 16 minutes and then stopped. That would have been terrible. But they broke the record. They crushed it. That's pretty neat.
27 minutes. That might be in the record books for a while because that is
Yeah.
a long. I mean, that's almost a half hour of just getting an entire stadium to do that. So that's pretty unreal. But again, you did have some unreal performances here at this event. You had what is always, I think, a favorite going into a Rocket League tournament with Cloud9 getting swept in the semis by Vitality. They went 4-0. So Cloud9, I'm not going to go in really any particular order here, but Cloud9, again, a favorite. They went 2-0 in their groups, a pretty easy group with Triple Trouble and Low Key Esports. So that was as to be expected. In the quarters, they 3-0'd FC Barcelona. Okay, again, pretty easy overall. They went to overtime on their first 2 matches against Barcelona, but for the most part, again, you 3-0'd a team, you're feeling good, you're going into the semis, and I think what happened to Cloud9 was they ran into their first obstacle that they couldn't just blow through at this event, and it cut them off guard and it killed their momentum. You saw it in the body language of the guys. They just looked like rattled. Like on the first match against Vitality, it was so like when it's the ball is still up in the air in Rocket League, even though it's a 0 clock, it still goes and goes,
Yeah.
right? They almost got it, right? And this is something to me that like probably shouldn't kill your momentum, but they almost got it in there, but they ended up not getting it, and then so they lost 2-1. And you just instantly saw like Gimmick's body language that whole time. Like every time there was a goal or anything, you would see him kind of huff and puff. And for me personally, like I think body language and attitude like that speaks a lot to how that team is thinking in their comms, right? So if you're going in there already, like you lost your first match of the event, like calm down, right? Like it's okay, right? You lost your first one, you got to bounce back, but of course, Vitality was riding the train of destiny because they were just utter domination. Ended up 4-0ing them, so that was always nuts. G2 had a pretty eventful weekend as
Good
all.
weekend for
Yeah, just
G2.
good weekend if you are a G2 organization fan, as they also were in the finals here against Vitality. Again, their playoff performance went 3-2 against PSG Esports, dominated Rogue 4-0 in the semis. So both teams went into the finals feeling as good as can be. Vitality 4-0 in Cloud9, probably were on Cloud9. I'm hilarious. And then G2 4-0ing Rogue. So you had both teams going in there feeling good, and yet in the finals, Vitality ended up winning 4-1. Some notes I have here going into it. So you have, let me pull my notes up here. You have Scrub Killa on Vitality. This was his first finals, okay, and they ended up taking it in. He clutched it with in the first. Let me see here. Ties game one. So in game one, it was 1-1 with 0 on the clock, and so 0 seconds on the clock. Killa ties it up, goes into 4 minutes overtime following that for Vitality to take that win. And I think right there, you saw it. The momentum was all in their favor, and G2 never really got back into it. I mean,
A 4-minute overtime is a long overtime.
that's excruciating. And you're in
Yeah.
the grand finals. And imagine, like I already said, Scrub Killa, this is his first finals ever. He's never been on a stage this big. For him to get the goal to send it in overtime with 0 seconds left on the clock, and then for them to take that 4-minute overtime, in my opinion, man, that whoever won that overtime was going to win the match, because you just saw again that body language on G2 just dip so hard. Yes, they won one game, but at that point, I think the damage
They're
was done.
down 3-0 already at that point,
Right.
and that game's almost
I mean,
meaningless.
Vitality just has to win one more. This was
Yeah.
not a loser's bracket. There was no resetting it, right? It was G2 had to have a historic comeback, and it just wasn't in their cards. But nonetheless, that was also a very exciting finals again. So G2 fans, you had a successful yet heartbreaking weekend. So, as
French
far as
fans, Vitality is a
French
French
fans,
team, so they had a solid weekend.
Yep, so-
G2 Rocket League is not a French team, but Vitality is. So
yeah, of course. So overall, pretty good weekend though for a championship Sunday, if I don't say so myself. And that is all I have to say about that. Let's get into some e-news, shall we? CSGO, we've already talked a little bit about this, but the new updated rankings, Liquid number 1, Astralis number 2, Ents at 3. So that's all of them will be in ESL New York. So again, Anuj mentioned earlier, ESL New York will pretty much be a mini major when it comes to how you feel about these teams. Optic Gaming are officially looking for a new org, as they tweeted out that they have one more event,
yeah, they have the.
or are they just pretty much playing with
No,
them
they're
until they get
playing
picked up?
They're playing under the banner until they get picked up.
Okay. And you're thinking, well, Optic Gaming, right? They haven't really been much in CSGO. Who's going to pick up these guys? Pump the brakes on that, because let me give you some fun facts here. This roster, despite not being that good in recent history, they have an ECS spot. They have an ESL Pro League spot. They're going to be at DreamHack Masters Malmo because they won Summer just a couple weeks ago. And after all that, so you're saying this roster has spots in 3 major things, 2 of them being ESL Pro League and ECS, which is pretty much what any org
What you
wants.
want. It's like being an LCS, man. Like, it's a big deal.
Like, these guys are not going to have an issue finding a new org. Like, I give it 2 weeks and they're finding a new org, because you have teams wanting to get into these leagues.
TSM, 100 Thieves, looking at you guys. Who's it going to be?
I was gonna say TSM, but don't they have a CS:GO team that's like super late, like super weak? Didn't they get back into CS:GO not that long ago?
I know they mentioned they were trying to get back in. I don't know whether they have a team or not. I don't know. Whoever they have, not relevant. Like, this would be, this would be obviously the way to go if they have that opportunity. And then for 100 Thieves, if they're looking to get back into CS:GO, they had that really short stint that didn't do anything, right? They didn't even play a match. They had stickers made. I remember that, but
And I'll also, to correct myself here, yeah, TSM, they do not have a current CS:GO roster, so There you go. They announced a couple months ago that they were looking back into it. This would be a perfect time. So we'll see. We'll see what happens there. And wouldn't it be so 100 Thieves to pick up former Optic?
Oh my god, I didn't even think about that.
Wouldn't that
How
just be poetic?
that'd be the icing on the cake, dude. We have to do an episode if that happens.
So poetic. Furia signed a 5-year contract with Furia. So the roster signed a new contract with the org after previous contract was for $1,400 a month, 200K buyouts, and 40% winnings going to the team. This has started a lot of uproar in the community saying that this was the worst contract ever. Now keep in mind, this is not their new contract. These are all just people complaining about an old contract, which I think everyone's getting into arguments over this, yet everyone is also agreeing with everyone. I don't really understand what's going on here, but
They were an MDL team prior to this. Like, I think making any money was going to be a win from them. Getting 15K a year for being a semi-pro team, like, you're gonna have to have some concessions other way. The new contract is just crazy because it's 5 years. I really hope they have. I mean, I hope that's a fantastic contract for them because that's a 5-year commitment is unheard of in esports.
shoot, you hope it's a good contract for them, but you also hope it's a good contract for the team, like the organization, right? Like imagine
Somebody is getting
having to
screwed
buy
here at
out
the end of
your
the day.
players, or someone will not be happy with that contract later on.
Yeah.
Get right, and NIP has kind of softly officially announced that he is no longer going to be on the team past the Berlin Major, saying that they are looking for long-term replacements for him, but as of after the Major, he is no longer going to be on NIP, and who knows if he will be playing Counter-Strike anymore.
To lose Brett and to lose Get Right within a 3-month span, my body is not going to be able to handle that properly.
It's
So
just too much.
I don't know what I'm going to do with this news. I
Happens
didn't
to
even
us
put it
all,
in
man.
show notes. I didn't even throw it in the show notes because I didn't want to talk about it.
I put it.
Surely
I put it.
you
I noticed it
updated
wasn't
it.
in there, and I was like, "Well, why isn't this in the show notes?"
My body's not ready
Yeah,
yet.
no, it happens to us all, man. Skadoodle and Shroud left Cloud9, so Get Right's got to leave NIP at some point. And I don't know if we brought this up last week, and I don't even know if it was there by the time last week. All these esports news running together, but JDM is becoming a free agent starting July 1st, so he will no longer be on Envy. And this has been rumored for a while. He tweeted it, making it official. I think it was official when the team forgot to tweet happy birthday to him. Did you see that?
No.
So it was like rumored that they were looking around shopping him, and then it was his birthday, and at like 11:59 he tweets out like, feels bad not getting a birthday tweet from your own org. And I was like, oh god.
Oh, Jay, where you at?
Especially
Is this on
since
you?
we know the people who run their Twitter account. It's like, oh no, it was probably innocent. They just didn't realize it.
Yeah, and they would never do that intentionally.
They didn't have that Google alert set up for you, buddy. I'm sorry. And so it was like at 12:01 they tweeted out like, happy birthday.
They probably didn't have it on their calendar because they didn't think it would last. This would
No.
last that long.
So that was always funny though. Little Overwatch League update for Stage 3. We had some big new things happen this week. The Vancouver Titans, almost called them Canucks. The Vancouver Titans have officially been taken down a notch. They have lost their first match ever in franchise history, losing 3-1 to LA Valiant. This is insane because it's the LA Valiant. The team is overall for the season 7-12. Like, they are not good for the season. Now I'll give it to the Valiant fans. For the stage, you're 4-1. Okay. But for the Titans to lose to LA Valiant is pretty shocking. And of course, the LA Valiant super fan, I forget her name already, was sitting here crying on stream. This was also the same chick who was bad-mouthing Fuel fans for booing LA when they walked out on stage, saying that she
yeah.
just couldn't believe it. Okay. Sure. Whatever. I have words to say about that. But there are no longer any more undefeated teams in the league. So New York will still be able to keep that banner for being the only team to never lose. Dallas Fuel, so far this stage, are 1-5. They are struggling, to say the least.
That's because Houston is playing well. Can't have two Texas teams
and
doing
that's
well.
another one, right? Houston is somewhat performing well this stage, so that's kind of a shock to everyone as they're 3-2, which for those who don't watch Overwatch League, you're like 3-2 is good. For the Houston Outlaws, it's not bad. They'll take it.
They will take it right now.
They will take it. The Fuel have a lot of things to get worked out. I think it's the coaching staff, but that's just me. And Atlanta, so far this stage, 0-5. They're missing DeFran. And also, they have a home game coming up. Like, they're the next homestand, I think. I'm not 100% sure when that is, but they're definitely going to have to turn that around to get any hype generated. So, but that's it for Overwatch. A lot of roster changes happening up in Call of Duty, Anuj.
Yeah, we had roster mania going on. You had Spacely rejoining Gen G. Spacely was kind of creating their own team at, at the beginning of this season when he was dropped. That didn't go too well, and now he's back on Gen G. Almost felt like a joke when that announcement was made, but good for him. I mean, I'm glad he's
Correct
getting
me
another
if I'm wrong, but
opportunity.
isn't Spacely the team at the beginning of the year that had a lot of drama surrounding it? Where they
Yeah,
ended
they
up
had
selling the roster, or they wanted to sell they tried selling the spot, and
it was there was drama at the beginning of the season. Part of it is
forget what
because
it
of how
was,
late
though,
he
and I
was
don't wanna say
dropped,
it.
and another big move for here in Dallas, actually, Envy. They traded or lent out Huke to Splice and got Gunless in return. That was a really big move, and there's a lot of drama surrounding that move, just because there was rumors being thrown around that they let him go, like Envy let him go for free, didn't charge anything for him, and that was like Mike actually had to come out. Mike, the owner of Envy, actually had to come out and shut that down and was telling people like you're talking without knowing anything. But Gunless was considered one of the best players early last year while he was on phase. He's known for that huge trade between him and Clayster. Has kind of had some up and downs, but this is expected to kind of help both teams. I think Splice is definitely the winner of the two when it comes to these moves, but I guess we can only wait and see. Envy also dropped Ferocity and picked up Assault. Accuracy joins Evil Gaming. This is in place of Phantoms, which is crazy because it
Evil
shows
Gamer
kind of
or
how
Evil Geniuses.
Evil Geniuses. I'm sorry, Evil Gaming, bro. See where my mind's at. Evil Geniuses. They dropped Phantoms. This kind of shows you the how crazy rosters are in COD. Though Phantoms was like picked up like a month ago. Like he's like new to the team. He just got onto the team, and a change is already being made. The other, I would say, the second biggest move behind the transfer to Splice from Envy for Hook would be Alex replaces Shawnee in the lineup for Reciprocity. Always throw that one out there and fail every time I say the full name. I should just say Team Rec. Alex is a great Maddox player, so it's going to be interesting to see how that lineup kind of evolves there, because Shawnee wasn't playing well in that role. Reciprocity has done well throughout the year, so this is still an upgrade for him. It'll be good to see how he plays. And then the other one is Pharaoh, still being a free agent. Pharaoh was notoriously
You've been
picked
talking
up.
about him all season.
Well, like with Pharaoh, he was chosen kind of over Karma on 100 Thieves. I mean, that was kind of like the debate there initially. And like Pharaoh's a really young, like stud player. Didn't work out well for him on 100 Thieves. 100 Thieves made a roster change, won two worlds after, or two CWL championships after they made the move to drop him. And he's still sitting there as a free agent. So a little unusual, but yeah, he's still out in the free agent market. It'll be interesting to see if he gets picked up. There's several other moves if people really want to dive into that. Roster Mania was pretty crazy, but you can kind of go look some of that stuff up. But there were a handful of other moves, Midnight Gaming and UYU and a couple others. So
Yep. So we'll see what happens with that as we're kind of quickly approaching the end of the Black Ops 4 lifespan.
And we got Miami coming up, and then you will have the championship in LA in a few months. So yeah, definitely
so it's
winding
crazy
down.
how quickly that is approaching, and then who knows what happens with franchising and all that. In other news, you have Kim Fan, who is the former global esports director of Blizzard, as she announced early last week that she is no longer with Blizzard. This is just one of many of the staples for the esports, not only just esports, but just general Blizzard employee that has left that company. Of course, Richard Lewis has been reporting it, and a lot of others, but mainly him, about how just the discontent that has been inside the Blizzard walls ever since, the company has kind of gone under new management. I know some people don't think it's a big deal. I definitely think it's worth keeping an eye on that all these people are leaving Blizzard. Like, from high-ranking people too, right? It's not like the little peon morale is low. It's even like the higher you go, it's almost like the more willing they are just to peace out, which is
Yeah,
a bit concerning.
it's all of this esports scene too, which is like, I mean, it's kind of tough to swallow if you're a Blizzard fan. You just see them losing one, good person after another, and it's obviously concerning. You kind of wonder, what the long-term game plan is here. I guess we're not going to know these effects immediately, right? But when you start losing talented people, like it's a bad sign. They're hard to replace, and so it'll be interesting to see. She hasn't announced where she's going, has she?
No, no. Her last, I looked actually right before we started recording. Her last tweet was her announcement still. So I mean, the rumor is Epic, right?
Yeah.
Everyone thinks that everyone's going to Epic, so we'll see. Everyone's going to Fortnite and Epic money, so if that's the case, so be it, right? It could just be all this could not be a concern at all with Blizzard, and just a money whip that Epic is putting down. So that's also a very much a possibility. So we'll, again, one of those, just keep an eye on it. And other news too, this could be huge, is Envy recently tweeted out a little teaser. And they've also changed their Twitter icon to show the little Smash Brothers logo behind their logo. And so, like, a new challenger approaching with Captain Falcon in the background, which in reality only means one thing, and that is they are teasing the signing of Wizrobe. Wizzy is finally getting his due, right? Like, we've talked about this kid for a while now, but even just recently, where he won Smash and Splash, being the first person to ever win a major as Captain Falcon. He got second place at Summit recently, all orgless. He's been orgless for a while now. He hasn't always been, but he's never been with like a mainstream huge organization. And so, man, I would love to know the other offers that he's turned away. But the fact that, like, he was able to hold out and getting an org like Envy to sign him is pretty awesome on his part. I mean, especially Envy, like, they've never really been known as the big fighting community org, right? And for them to get in with a top 10 player like Wizzy, I think it speaks volume to him, but also the Melee scene, the Smash scene, because he's also got top 8 in Ultimate recently at Smash and Splash. So, it's just really awesome to see. Again, it's not technically official. I have tweeted or I have texted some people who have failed to get back to me to see if I could get anything from the inside. Sometimes you think you're more important than what other people think. Some people don't text you back. That's okay. But for all intents and purposes, Envy is signing Wizrobe. So that's pretty awesome to see a Smash player get signed up to a big org. So good for him. Oh boy. What a show. What a good episode 163 as it is done. It's in the books. Thank you for listening, or if you skipped around or listened to the whole thing, I love you all the same. Thank you for if you were participating in Twitch chat. Zen, what's up? But that will just about do it for episode 163 of The Center Ring, aka TCR, aka your favorite esports podcast. We will be back next week, next Monday, talk about whatever happens in the esports world. I think we kind of have like a slower weekend approaching. So we'll come up with something. If you have any ideas, let us know on Twitter at The Center Ring. Give us a follow if you're not doing so already. You can also join our Discord. That link is found on our Twitter profile. Join the conversation. Be a part of the fun. We are always in there chatting as well. Also, if you see us in a general chat, feel free to always join. We're just hanging out. But I think that just about does it, Anuj. Good show.
Good show, dude.
Good show. We will be back next week, though. For everyone, again, thank you. We will see you next time.